Right, this is Marko from the Swedish death metal band The Crown. You are watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 339 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Marko Tervonen from The Crown. So, how are you doing today, Marko? It's so great to be able to talk with you today.
Hey, man, good to see you. Sorry for being a bit late, but yeah, let's go.
Yeah, better late than never, as I always say. So, kind of the format of the show is I want to talk about like your musical career and sort of do a rundown of the Crown discography, but take me back to young Marko. So, kind of growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to start playing guitar?
I think I was very young. I had a friend, we sort of lived in the same neighborhood. He was a few more years older. And I got introduced to like Scorpions, and Scorpions was, I would say, one of the first hard rock music I really enjoyed. And this guy also learned me the basic stuff, how to play guitar, some simple stuff. And then it sort of escalated from there, and late, I don't know, 89 or something like that. That's when I was attacked by the death metal wave that were hitting us. But yeah, it started with like hard rock, Scorpion stuff, and then I got into Halloween. I still enjoy Scorpions a lot. I do.
Yeah, they rock you like a hurricane.
Oh, fuck yeah. I have such a sweet spot for the album The Savage Amusement.
Nice.
I mean, still to this day, I think I can sing along all the lyrics, So it's such a good melodic rock style. But yeah, then death metal came and ruined my life, basically. So, yeah.
but then, of course, I believe. Tell me about like starting up the Crown, because originally it was just called Crown of Thorns. So how'd you get to know like everybody at the time?
It's we're all from this small city here in Sweden called Trollhättan, which is about an hour outside of Gothenburg. So, and within this city, there's like these different districts, I went to school at a certain district, and three of the other guys went to another, and Marcus went to the third. But then when we were, I guess, around 14 years old, the guys that went to one of those schools was Janne, Johan, and Magnus, and they started to sort of discover the harder side of music together, and those three sort of decided that, yeah, let's try play together. And they played a couple of months before I joined. I think they played some, the good old cover songs that you do when you start out, we're not even talking about death metal here, but we're talking breaking the law and stuff like that. So,
but still good stuff.
Yeah, solid stuff. And this is actually quite ironic, is that I met Janne. There's a pretty strong tradition in Sweden that you go, I guess the closest name would be some sort of Bible study thing. Like once a week,
You're like a youth group?
You attend like 1 hour every week for a few months, and then you have this ceremony. What the hell is it called in English? I'm not really sure, but it's quite common thing, especially sort of your parents, especially the Finnish parents. They have this strong relationship they really want the kids to do it. But actually, so I met Jan during this sort of Bible youth school thing, and so it was sort of the cross that got us into death metal. That's quite funny.
Cool. So tell me about like those first Crown of Thorns demos, being Forever Heaven Gone and Forget the Light. I thought those were like very raw sounding demos. So where were those recorded at?
Yeah, it was recorded in basically the only studio we knew about in our hometown, and we asked around like who could be the engineer, and someone said, yeah, there's this guy called Erwin Genk that has done something there, and I mean he was totally unknown to death metal, and we just went in for the Forever Heaven Gone demo. I think it's 6 songs, very ambitious. We booked 2 days, and we ended up, being there around the clock. And it's very rough. We hardly knew how to sort of execute the songs on the level it needed. It was a good wake-up call, to be honest. The first recording sessions, when you realize that maybe you don't sound like Morbid Angel already,
Yeah, but then you start playing around like Sweden, and then you got signed to, I believe, your first record label, Black Sun Records. So how did they find you guys?
Yeah, it was. We were always. Well, we were a couple of years late if you compare it to the sort of big wave of Swedish bands. I mean, when we were recording our second demo, Forget the Light, I mean, Entombed were working on Bourbry Blues. So, the Left Hand Paths and Clandestine and those, I mean, we came in a bit late, so we had a lot of challenges getting a deal, because basically all the labels had already signed their dose of death metal, so we sent around to all kinds of labels all around the world, got rejections everywhere, and all of a sudden this Swedish label, Black Sun Records, we sort of knew about them because they run a record store, very well-known record store in Gothenburg called Dolores Records. It's not around anymore, but so we sort of knew about them, and the guy Rolf there, he just called me and said, "This is a good demo. We should release it." And then everything went quickly. We booked studio time, and we were recording the debut album. So I wonder many times that if Black Sun wouldn't have approached us, we would have been pretty doomed, to be honest. It was quite difficult to get a record deal that late. 94 or something like that?
Yeah, it was around the mid-90s, because then going to 95, 30 years ago, you released The Burning, which is a great debut album. So what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process like, making like the debut Crown album?
I think it's quite typical thing that you have the bunch of songs you've done demos for, and we sort of pick the best ones. And
try to like make them like more refined?
Yeah, of course. There's many of those songs, most of the songs from the demos ended up on the debut album, so we just tried to do it better, especially performance-wise. The demos were very, very rough, so we knew that you can't get away with stuff when you're in a studio. I mean, in a rehearsal room, you can sort of hide away and, but in the studio, the microscope is on, and you hear all the fuck-ups. So we took the best songs we had from the demos, and we wrote a couple of new ones. I think the first track of Good and Evil and the last track, Forget the Light, those were the latest ones we did. Everything in between are sort of older songs.
Awesome. And so when The Burning first came out, did you start like touring outside of like Sweden for the first time, or was it still just locally around like Gothenburg and stuff?
Yeah, it was still only Sweden, Gothenburg, and we might have went up in Sweden somewhere, but the first abroad gig happened with the next album.
Yeah, which we'll get there in a sec.
Yeah. So, but yeah, The Burning, it was pretty good. The label, they send it to all the relevant, magazines and all of that stuff. So good reviews, and it was a good first step. But obviously, when you're young and you release your first debut album, you sort of think, we made it. Now the world tours are coming and all of that. But it's a long and slow journey to the top, man.
Yeah, indeed, Marko. But this year does mark the 30-year anniversary of The Burning, which I thought I think it was a great way to start off your career with a bang. So do you have like a different viewpoint about this album now, 30 years later versus when you first put it out in 95?
Oh yeah, I mean there's always a lot of sort of emotions connected to every album, because when I think of The Burning, or when I hear it, I still to this day can't really hear it as an outsider. What I see in my head is the pain and agony in the studio. It's the struggles, you know, everything we had to do, you know, to get that album done. So it's quite difficult for me to have that, try to view the albums from an outside view. There's too much emotions always getting involved. But yeah, I still today think it's a good, solid debut album. And what I like mostly about it is that already on this album we showed a lot of different styles. Because, I mean, if you listen to the first track of Good and Evil, it's basically like a 4-beat melodic. I was so influenced by like Age of Sanity. And the final track, Forget the Light, is like on the borderline to black metal. So there was a lot of styles already introduced there, and also a very weird song like The Candles. So what I like it as the from a debut that has these various songs, you can go to different places without being judged, you know, too hard. So I like that.
Yeah, and being as it's also now the 30 years, is there like a chance you'll celebrate this somehow? Maybe like do a tour where you play in its entirety?
I learned to never say never, but I think those anniversary stuff, those can be pretty cool to do.
Yeah.
It's always that you want to do it the right way, and you want to plan it and everything, and we suck at planning and, you know, organizing things. So, who knows?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, but what is your...
Luckily, we release so many albums, so basically every year there's some sort of anniversary.
Yeah. But what is your thoughts on like bands like doing like album playthrough tours of like anniversaries and stuff? Do you think it's like a cash grab, or do you think it's just they want to like do it? Because I feel like there's like two sides to it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I've been myself, you know, switching a bit back and forth. What do I really think about it? Should we do it? Some sort of, I don't know, you know, the Crown plays Death Race King in its entirety or something like that. I'm not. So I'm going back and forth if it's a good idea or not. Because if you would have asked me like a year ago, my answer would have been that, well, if we would start doing that, that would mean that the band is over. You know, it's a sign of the end in some way. But then again, there's nothing wrong with celebrating what you've done in the past, you know, if you want to focus on an album. So yeah, it depends on the day and what time of day you catch me with a question like this. I still haven't really decided if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. But then moving on to the next album, Eternal Death. I like this album because usually with the debut album you have like your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to making Eternal Death, did you feel like any pressure to follow up The Burning?
No pressure, because we were in that phase that, I mean, right after The Burning, we started spitting out music. I mean, we had shitloads of songs. Those new, I mean, there's not, I think, is it like under 2 years between those albums or something like that?
Yeah, this came out in 97. Burning came out in 95.
Yeah, so we had a lot of new songs, and what I liked with The Burning is that we sort of emptied all of the old songs. So everything on Eternal Death is new songs that we did, and we were super inspired. It's usually, I mean, we were inspired just to have an album out, the possibility to do another one. So the creative sort of things were happening, and we were very much into the mixture of this, you know, this mellow death black metal thing. I like the overall feeling of Eternal Death. I think it's very ambitious album. I mean, the lyrics are like fucking essays, every lyric, and it's very special stuff, and I think it has a really cool atmosphere on this borderline black metal atmosphere almost.
Yeah, so it's fair to say like you and Johan and everybody sort of like brings like their own style into The Crown with all those different like styles and influences.
Yeah, I think that especially like music-wise, me and Magnus have always been the sort of main songwriters, and you could already start to see that on The Burning and especially then on Eternal Death and later on, that we have our different styles, but it always added a more wider sound to our albums. I was always the more melodic guy. Magnus later on, you know, he was, you know, almost doing like punk stuff, you know, and pretty raw music. And in the very, very beginning, usually joked and said that I was the sort of Age of Sanity guy in the band, and Magnus was more about D-side, you know. So it was like those two worlds, but we managed to combine it.
Yeah, and it works perfectly to the T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eternal Death, I'm really proud of still today. I think it's a really cool. It's not executed flawlessly, that's not the whole thing, but I love how ambitious it is. And like later on, for this latest album, we did re-record one song, The Hunger, as a bonus track. So that was pretty cool to revisit that, you know. But yeah, that's a cool atmosphere.
And I feel like you guys really started to hit the ground running with this. So, and of course, you mentioned you started touring outside of Sweden. So, what was that like playing like in like new countries? Be like, well, we ain't Kansas anymore.
It was quite interesting because we were booked on this 2-week European tour, and it was really crazy because it was us basically headlining, and we were so unknown at the moment, and we brought up with us label mates from the band called Sacrilege.
I've heard about them.
Also really, and that time, and Sacrilege was a bit of a special band. I mean, on the albums, the drummer does the vocals, but they needed a singer, and luckily, at the Gates had quit, so Thomas Lindberg joined Sacrilege doing the vocals on that tour, and that's basically how we got to know him. And you know, later on our history with Thomas Lindberg as well. So, but that tour was 2 weeks in Europe. Very wake-up call. We played for empty halls.
Just played to like the sound guy and probably the bar people, and that's it.
Plus the dog, man. Don't forget the dog.
The dog? What?
Yeah. I was just in spinal that. Don't forget the dog. You need to count the dog. Another thing. But never mind. But it was the final show on that tour was sort of an indoor festival thing, and that was basically the only good thing that happened was thanks to that tour is that on that final show Metal Blade was there. Ooh. So we got their attention, and we got signed to Metal Blade.
Yeah,
so that was good.
Yeah, but then of course eventually you had to change your name from Crown of Thorns to The Crown because there was like another band called The Crown at the time. Yeah. So how did you come up with The Crown? I know it's the typical interview question, like, how'd the band name come to be?
Yeah. I remember when we were 2 albums in, and you know, starting to work on the 3rd one, and then we need to change the name, and of course it felt like, what the hell is this, you know, and. We had a lot of ideas. Should we change it completely? But we were just, let's just shorten. We called the band Crown anyway. So then we don't need to redo a logo. We just cut away the letters.
Yeah.
So we took the easy way out, and maybe not our best decision ever, because I think one of the things that has been working against us has always been the band name.
Because there's also like a thing on Netflix series called The Crown.
Yeah, and there's shitloads. Like in the UK, every fucking pub is called The Crown, and there's such a. It's not a perfect name, but we always felt okay. People who know us, they know that we are referring to Crown of Thorns anyway. So, we took the easy way out and just shortened the name.
Yeah. Then we go into, I guess, the first album under the Crown Monk here, Hell Is Here. Love this album. It's a quick turnaround for Eternal Death. Literally came out like a year later. Did you start writing for Hell Is Here right after Eternal Death?
Yeah. Right away. At that time, we were so disciplined. We rehearsed 3 times a week, and it was always every rehearsal, I have a new song, Magnus have a new song, I have a new song. It just went on really fast. And Hell Is Here, super important album for us. I sort of continued with the sort of melodic style that I really like doing, like songs like Dying of the Heart and At the End, and Magnus really brought in some interesting aspects to this album. He brought in the sort of rock and roll punk things. You can obviously hear it on songs like Electric Night and Poison. And there's a lot of this. It's a different vibe or different style or whatever that were sort of added into our sound. And and the production overall is very rough sounding. So it's a very, very unique album in many ways. And I think maybe Metal Blade were a bit shocked because they signed us here in Eternal Death and we came with this. But yeah, the reviews were great, and this is the first time we went on proper tours for Hell Is Here. So.
And do you remember like the first proper tours that you guys were on?
Yeah, it was an amazing tour. It was back then. There was in Europe there was like this festival packages that was called No Mercy Tours. It was also around December. It's like 2-week tour, and they booked the best of the best, like 6 bands, and tour around Europe. And on that first tour, we were touring with Morbid Angel, Emperor.
Holy shit!
Yeah. And then we shared a bus with Impale Nazarene that we got to know. We have a history together since then. But amazing packages, Yeah. And those festivals, No Mercy festivals, they continued for many years. So we all did that a second time as well, and played again with Morbid Angel, and Behemoth was on it, and I mean like 6 bands, super big bands, and shitloads of people every night.
Yeah.
So those are really, really good tours.
Yeah. Did you like start like touring in the States for the first time, or is it still just, or is it later on?
That was later on. Let me see, so I get the first time I think was for the next album,
Which we'll get there in a sec. But one thing I kind of noticed with the first 3 albums, they almost have like these like the cover wise, they almost kind of look the same. Same. It almost feels like they're almost like connected in a way. Was that sort of like the idea, or was it just like a coincidence?
Well, the first album is always a coincidence. So because if you look at the first album cover, it's actually, there's no computers involved. It's painted by Christian Bolin, who did all of the dissections, all those stuff.
Yeah,
and
like AI can't top this shit.
Yeah. So it's really on canvas. He did it. And actually, the logo on the original version that says Carnal Thorns, the logo is actually painted on there as well.
Oh, wow.
So, everything is really hands-on. And he also then did the second one, Eternal Death, and same coloring, same vibes. And with Hell Is Here, he just wanted to continue with it. But what usually happens with us, that when we start to see a pattern on something, then we want to go the total opposite. That's what we did with Death Race King,
Yeah, which we'll get into here. And this year does mark 25 years of Death Race King, and I thought that, like you mentioned before, you kind of wanted to like change it up a little bit. So how did this album come to be?
Yeah. It was musically, we just continued with what we started with Hell Is Here. And but we just wanted to do changes, we didn't want to get stuck in the same routine, so we changed the artwork artist, we changed the studio. The first 3 albums are recorded in the same studio south of Sweden, but for Death Race King we wanted to go to Studio Fredman for many reasons. It's very close to us, and good solid studio, and also the artwork is it's by a tattoo artist. He used to be a member of a band called Grotesque, way before, like at the Gates.
Yeah, and, I think it's Alf Svensson.
Yeah, exactly. So Magnus saw a variation of that skull in his sort of tattoo portfolio, and we talked with him, and he redid it, and that became the action-packed cover art for Death Race King. I think it's beautiful.
Hell yeah!
Especially the first version we released was this black box with the the silver was printed on the actual plastic. So that was a really, really nice one.
Nice. And then, of course, like you previously mentioned, you started touring in America for the first time. So what was like your first impression of us Americans?
It's I'm not gonna lie to you. What is typically for people in Europe or whatever, what we think we know about you crazy Americans is what we see in the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically
Probably we're just like dumb and stuff.
Yeah. So I remember we flew to Houston, we got picked up, and we just started to drive all the way to Florida. And I just remember being in the band, looking out. We were all in the band like, shit, this is a fucking movie, you know? Everything is like a movie. We were driving through small, towns. Like, I've seen this in a movie. Everything is so surreal, you know?
Yeah. But so, going to like Florida, that's like the home of like the death metal bands like Death and Cannibal and Obituary and stuff.
Yeah, we did the fanboy thing. We visited Morrison Studios as well. So,
legendary place.
Oh yeah, so that was really cool. I bought the shirt. Unfortunately, I lost it, but we got to go in there. Got a little guide showed us around there, and it was really holy ground for us. It's really cool. I love the whole everything, Morrison, Scott Burns, everything that for me is holy ground.
Yeah, cool. Because I don't know if y'all had played like in Atlanta at that tour. Because I'm from like north of Atlanta. Now, so what do you remember? Because I believe you played like the Masquerade back in the day.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Masquerade we played. The first tour was such a kick-ass tour. It was us, Nile, Crisian, and Cannibal Corpse.
Hell yeah. Crisian's my boys. I just saw them at MDF.
Yeah. So that was an unbelievable introduction to the, we played some serious good venues, everything from, the House of Blues stuff, it's really in Chicago. I remember we played it. And of course we played Whiskey A Go-Go and all those classic places. And I think we did close to 30 shows on that tour, I think. So we went from east to west coast and up to Canada, and it was awesome, unbelievable.
Nice. And then next up is Crowned in Terror. Love this album. So what was it kind of like going from like this to this? It's kind of hard to describe. I feel like it was like a next evolution in the Crown sound.
Yeah, I think musically quite natural what happened. I can't remember we ever sort of analyzed sort of where do we go from here. It was always a very natural thing. But obviously the big change is the change of vocalist for Crowned in Terror. So Thomas Lindberg from At the Gates, he didn't have a band at the moment.
So he's like, hey, want to join us?
Yeah, he was basically like, we need a singer, man.
He's like, okay.
So it was cool. At the time, it felt like the right thing. It was, we knew that we had some tours coming up, and we wanted someone who's been around and knows how things work. So Thomas Lindberg brought in his unique style, personality, and he also was involved with the lyrics as well. And it's quite a different approach compared to Johan's more darker. Death metal style where Thomas is doing the high pitch all the time. So it was a different breed of monster there.
Yeah, and did you feel like nervous like with him singing on the album? And how were like the fans like reactions to him singing?
Yeah, one thing that is people sort of forget is that At the Gates didn't become this legendary band until much later after they quit. So during the time when they released their albums, even Slaughter the Soul, they never became that mega band that they are today. That happened years after they quit the band, and it's actually a lot of thanks to the US, the metalcore bands that sort of started to rip off the Slaughter of the Soul sound.
Yeah, like Killswitch Engage and stuff. Like the stuff I grew up. I grew up with that shit in high school.
Yeah, and there was a lot of those bands, and I think people just started to say, where is this coming from? And everything led to Slaughter of the Soul, and that's when they became really big, but they had already quit, Yeah. So for us, asking Thomas to join, we knew him, we lived very close to each other, so it just felt a natural thing, and we knew that he wasn't in a band, so he was like, come on in, let's sneak him in.
Yeah, and then next up is Possessed 13. I have the black cover right here. Here. Well, I have like two versions. It's kind of a funny story how I got this. Well, I have the white cover initially. I got it used off of Amazon, but when I opened up the disc, it actually had Gateways to Annihilation by Angel in there. I was like, what the fuck?
What?
I got it used from Amazon, and but luckily I got a refund for this. But instead, I got like the black cover and of course that actually has the actual CD right here. Here, so but I decided to keep the white case, so now I have like both covers. So how did the idea come to be to sort of like make like the different covers for Possessed 13?
We started by doing the white version. That was the first version we did. And we really liked it. And someone, I believe, just came up with that. It would be cool to have them separate versions so that, because we really, really wanted the white version on a vinyl to have this big, image of it. And we just decided, okay, let's do two versions. And people who give a shit, they will hunt them down, both of the versions, And I personally have the white version. I don't think the black version even exists as a vinyl. I don't think so. So I think the black one is the CD and white is CD and vinyl, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and through a marketing thing perspective, there will be like diehard fans that will get like both versions.
Yeah, I've seen people. I mean, obviously there are always like collectors and people like that, but we just really wanted. I can't remember what it was, but because we had this idea that the whole, oh, look, it's my coffee tray. It's so that we would print the CD on this paper, not this glossy paper thing, the white version. So it would be like almost like a thin paper style. Then we really wanted that feel on the white vinyl version as well. When you see that, it almost looks like scratched up paper, and so. But yeah, two different versions, and the collectors will collect.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that you made your logo like the Earache Records label logo. Yeah. So how did that idea come to be, and were you kind of like, let's hope they don't sue us?
Yeah. It was an idea from the guys that did that artwork. When they sent it to us, we were like, what the hell? This is like Earache Records. And they were like, well, actually, it relates to the old skateboard magazine called Thrasher. I was like, well, that is Earache Record, a logo, So they really pushed for that. Yeah, with this, horror artwork, art style we're going for, let's change the logo as well. And we were like, okay, let's go. And of course, the first interview I did, why do you have Earache's logo on it?
Yeah, but one thing I thought was interesting, like the album's like divided into 3 parts: Initiation, Exaltation, and Annihilation. So what made you, how did that idea come to be? And would you say it's almost like in a concept album in a way?
Yeah, I think that whole idea came in when we realized that when we actually decided to go with this sort of movie theme in a way. It almost reeks a bit like the old Hammer horror films, with the artwork and the logo, and we added the return of the Crown. We were hinting that Johan is back in the band, but it also suits
and how'd he come back?
Theme. Yeah. And also how the credits are on the front, the like movie style, written there. So the 3 acts that came from the theater world, that let's divide it into 3 acts, just the hell of it, to add more to that sort of theatrical movie theme going on,
Nice.
And when we sort of decided on that, then I also wrote a couple of instrumental songs that I thought fit in, like Dream Bloody Hell. It's like this soundtrack styled instrumental songs with a lot of effects here going on. So yeah, I don't think lyrically there's a theme going there, but I think the visuals and the attitude and the packaging, that was a lot of the, let's go with the movie theme of it.
All right. And then next up is Crowned Unholy, which is actually a new version of Crowned in Terror. So what made you guys decide to redo an album that you've already done?
Yeah, I think the thing was that we were really proud and happy when Johan returned.
And how do you end up coming back?
Well, it was actually pretty easy because he left the band when he was sort of struggling a bit, on the private plane, getting everything to work, family and band. And I mean, it's a quite brutal balance you're trying to sort of navigate through. And when he came to Possess 13, I just asked him. I called him, you want to meet up? Yeah. You want to join the band? Yeah, I'm going to join the band. Okay, let's go. So it was very, very quick, decision for him to come back. And we were really happy with it when he was back. And I remember I had this feeling that, are we going to be one of those bands that have albums with different singers on? And, and then next thing led to another. And I remember Metal Blade said, can't you just re-record the album, man, with Johan on vocals? Is that okay? It's a legal thing to do, But we decided to do it. And I remember I really liked the idea that we would have all albums available with the same singer. That was, I remember that was my driving force.
All right. And then you started touring for a little bit, and it was around 2004 where the Crown had broken up. So how hard was it to end the band at the time?
It was very difficult from many aspects. I mean, we started playing when we were around 14 years old. I mean, when we were formed in 1990. So the band was everything. It was always in our mind. When we planned stuff, it was always, what is Crown doing in October? Can I do this and this with my family or whatever? I mean, there was always the band about everything. So, and it came to the next step. It was actually when we were in the studio doing the Crown Unholy. Magnus approached us. He says, I'm going to be a dad. And we were like,
holy
wow.
Shit.
Yeah, so, and I mean, Magnus is quite a bright guy, and he sort of just realized that, well, if I'm going to be a dad,
I gotta be there. Gotta be there for. Gotta be the dad. Gotta be there for the little ones.
Yes, yeah. So that basically was the original reason we quit. I wouldn't say it was only that, but that was the sort of final straw, because there was a lot of things that was quite difficult being in the Crown. We were thrown on so many kick-ass tours, but we were still doing a lot of those pay-to-play things, so that you get attention. And it's really difficult the older you get, obviously. You get home, oh shit, there's a rent to be paid, I don't have money. I don't know. So it's kind of difficult when you become a grown-up,
Yeah.
So it's much easier when you play in a band and mommy and daddy pays your bills and takes care of you. But when you're a grown-up, it's quite more challenging.
Yeah, indeed. And then during the breakup at the time, you started up with Angel Blake. I'm always curious about those albums being the self-titled and the Descendant. How did you decide come to be to form Angel Blake?
Well, I think I realized something that is still valid today, that even though if I'm not in a band or if I'm not in the Crown, it's not like I can stop writing music, because that's always something in the back of my head. I always write music almost every day. I always go around thinking about music, new stuff. And before we quit the Crown, we had started to rehearse some new material. And I believe 3-4 of those songs that is on the first Angel Blake album were intended for the Crown, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I remember we actually rehearsed even. I think it was Retaliate, Self-Terminate, even Lycanthrope, I think. We rehearsed, obviously with death metal vocals and all of that. But, so when we stopped the band, I was like, well, I have a lot of songs. What should I do? Should I release them? Should I not release them? So, and I talked with Metal Blade, and they were like, fuck yeah, let's release them. Okay, let's do it. Then I got in touch with a singer that I enjoyed, and I mean, those 2 Angel Blake albums, I play all the instruments myself. it's a vocalist that I sort of need help with.
So you sort of handle all the instrumentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with like playing like different like instruments, do you also like find like you're able to express like different sides of you like creatively?
Yeah, I've always had a weak spot for playing drums. I really love playing drums. Not this hyper technical death metal stuff, but I mean, I love playing that groovy 4-beat.
Can it be like simple AC/DC shit?
Yeah, fucking Lars Ulrich style. I mean, I can do it. I can do it well, man. So, and that's basically those Age of Bake stuff. It's not fast. It's a lot of mid-tempo stuff, and I love playing that kind of stuff. It's really cool. But as much as I enjoyed doing those 2 albums, I also realized that it was quite lonely to do it. You know, when you don't have a band.
Yeah.
It's like you're recording something and you want to just turn around. Oh, guys, what do you think? Oh, there's no one there. Okay, I'm by myself. Okay, you know. So that was the process. But I really wanted to release them, and the second album, dug more into the thing I was doing.
Yeah.
Actually, I've started to write a third one now. So
Ooh.
let's see.
Ooh, you hear an exclusive here, folks.
Exclusive here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but then going into 2008, you started up Lady Morning. Like, I'm always curious about that. Like, nobody ever really talks about them.
No, that was just a thing that escalated a bit too quickly to Blabbermouth and stuff like that. Because it was, I wrote a couple of songs with my wife. She's a very talented, you know, she's a school singer, and she's a very, very good singer, and I wanted to do some music with her, and we just did a couple of demo songs, and all of a sudden it was on Blabbermouth and stuff, and it never was a band in that sense, you know. We did record and create some own songs, and we did some cover songs, and I mean, so it wasn't intended as a real band in that sense.
Yeah. And then it was around 2000, that same year, 2008, like the Crown got back together, but under the Monkier Doberman. So how did that name come to be?
Yeah, that was an interesting phase because we were still not sort of reforming the Crown again. I had Angel Blake's song, I ran a studio, I was doing a lot of stuff, and Magnus formed like a rock and roll band called Stolen Police Car, and I produced their album, and I mean, we still all lived in the same city, and all of a sudden I think Magnus first approached Janne like, I have 10 new thrash songs. I don't know what to do with it, you know. Janne was like, he was like asking Janne, do you want to drum? I was like, yeah, I can drum. And then next thing he's asking me, do you want to play guitar? I have 10 fucking death metal songs, and I don't know what to do with it. I can play. Let's record. Let's do something. And the original idea was that we have been talking with Andreas Berg, who today plays in Death Star. I mean, this sort of gothic style thing, but he has a background of, you know, death thrash metal from Swordmaster and stuff like that. So the idea was that Andreas Berg would be the singer, and we would, basically the rest of the Crown would play the music, and that would be the Doberman. But things just evolved, and the next step was like, oh, Marcus, do you want to play the solos? I mean, it ended up that everybody in the Crown was involved in this.
Yeah, so it kind of happened by accident.
Yeah, they were like, what the hell are we doing? Let's just call it the Crown, and let's get signed, and let's just fucking do it, you know.
Yeah.
That's just how it went.
Yeah, but then of course you were under a Century Media Records. So how did that deal come to be to sign with them?
That was I remember thinking that when we sort of came back, I really just wanted to come back to something different, something new, something that felt fresh. So signing to a different label, meaning that you get to know different type of people. So I really pushed for that. We had a great guy, a manager, who sort of discussed with a lot of labels, and we said that, okay, we've been on Metal Blade for years. Let's try something else. So we signed a 2-album deal with Century Media and did 2 albums for them, and maybe didn't feel that super well taken care of, so we went back to Metal Blade later on.
Yeah, which we'll get into in a sec. So, but tell me about like the comeback album, Doomsday King.
Yeah.
King, tell me, how did this album come to be, and what was it like, sort of like getting back in the studio with you and Marcus and Magnus and everybody?
Yeah, it was really weird because we were when we were recording it, we still hadn't decided it would be The Crown. But it was in the studio we started to discuss that, like, fuck, everything sounds like The Crown, and we started to think, okay, maybe we should call the band like Eternal Death or something, something related to The Crown or something. But then we just said, fuck it, let's use the name The Crown and get signed and get forward. So but it wasn't intended as a Crown album to start with. It started out with Magnus having those songs and said, oh, okay, I don't know what to do with them. What should we do? But we sort of twisted them into Crown stuff. And yeah, it's a very unique album in many ways. But I think it's a bit underrated. I think it's a pretty cool album.
I thought it was an underrated comeback album, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, of course, one of my favorite songs is Angel of Death, 1839. For a split second, I didn't see the 1839. I thought, you guys are covering Slayer. But then I found out, like, this was actually, like, a Swedish poem which is Dalton's Angel. So how did that idea come to be for that song?
Yeah, that was really cool. It's actually, it's an old relative to Magnus who wrote that one, actually. It's
wow.
Yeah, so he sort of got published and released this poem or whatever called Angel of Death, Dödens Ängel in Swedish. And I mean, it's this long, the whole thing, and it was Magnus' idea that we should have it in one of the songs. But when we started working with it, it's really funny because if you listen to that song, there's vocals all the time. Because we found the rhythmic from the sort of the poetry, and it just flows perfectly through the whole song. But there's totally vocals all the time, so it's quite an intense song.
Yeah. And then what was sort of like the touring cycle like for Doomsday King? Were you kind of like nervous to like get back out, and what was it like being back out as the Crown?
Yeah, it was a bit nervous. It's, I mean, you have a different singer there, and years go by, but we went back, and we never did a tour, but we did a lot of festivals that I remember, very high-profile festivals as well. So yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking, to be honest, and but we managed to pull it off.
Yeah. And then, of course, the next album, Death Is Not Dead. I like this album, and I know it's also been 10 years since this album. But with this album, did you feel like a little more comfortable? Well, now that you guys, it's been a few years since Doomsday King, like you all are back together. Did you feel like comfortable like recording this as opposed with Doomsday King?
Actually, that album is very, very weird for me in many ways. It's it was Janne, our original drummer, sort of approached us, that he said that he had been headhunted by Apple from San Francisco to work for them. He's like this whiz kid electrical engineer guy. So he said that I'm not going to be able to be the drummer for 4 years. I'm going to San Francisco and work for Apple, designing their new iPhone, So we took a really, really weird decision, and it's actually me playing the drums on that album.
Yeah, that's why you're playing drums and guitar. So what was that like playing?
Yeah.
So what was that like playing drums? Was that like fun?
It wasn't fun, man, because I said I love playing, Lars Ulrich Metallica stuff, but all of a sudden I had to do this fucking technical stuff, and
you're like, I hope I do good.
Yeah, and that is the sort of unfortunate thing that you hear on the album, that I'm playing the death metal stuff almost like an old man. There's not that energy that Janne had, and the tempo is slower. He sounds a bit tired, and and I blame really much myself for the failure on that album. It was a bit too much for me to handle the drums and everything, but yeah, we got it out, and yeah, did shitloads of shows. I went to Japan and all of, I mean, a lot of good stuff.
Oh wow, yeah, and I thought this is a cool, interesting fact. Like the title "Death Is Not Dead" is a pun on "Punk's Not Dead." That how did that come to be?
Yeah, it was sort of from there. It was, and came a bit natural in a sense because I mean, I think song-wise, it's not bad. There's good songs on it. It's just the performance thing, especially the drum part, which is my bad. That so I find it really difficult to listen to that album. But there is good, solid stuff there. And Death Is Not Dead, I think it's just, as you said, it's like, you know, death metal isn't really dead yet. We have some more to prove, you know. So that's basically one of those things.
Awesome. We got a couple more albums to talk about. Next up is Cobra Speed Venom. I love this album. So tell me about that. Did you feel like we're just spot on? And of course you're back on Metal Blade. So what was it like working with Metal Blade again?
It was really cool, and it was really funny also because we did those 2 albums for Century Media, and those were really a bit shaky albums. So actually Metal Blade said, well, we would like to hear some new songs before they decide. We were like, oh shit, we need to demo to them, you know? So we went into Studio Fred and recorded 5 songs, sent it out to Metal Blade, and they wanted to sign us right away. So that we got really pumped up by doing it, and we decided that for Cobra Speed Venom, we would do it like a proper recording, meaning that we all go into the studio and as a band, because there was a couple of albums we did. I mean, Doomsday King is one of those albums we didn't even rehearse. It was. I mean, we didn't even play together the songs until we recorded it. So, and Death Is Not Dead was about me writing songs and sharing files, and you know. So for Cobra Speed Venom, we decided, okay, we need to do this as a band. Everybody needs to be 2 weeks in the studio, hang out. I don't care if you don't need to play, but you're gonna be in the studio, and you know, we're gonna do this like a band. And you could really tell that listening to that album. It sounds like a band on fire, I think.
Yeah, especially like going into like Destroyed by Madness, Iron Crown, Necrohammer. Like you guys were on fucking fire with this album.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it was a really, really strong album, and a lot of people said, this one shouldn't be released after Death Race King. I mean, people always have, you know, ideas, but yeah, I'm super proud of that album. I think it's solid stuff.
Yeah, and then, of course, you toured for a little bit from, 2018, 2019, and, of course, 2020, the virus that I refuse to name happened. And so I know during that time, I know it kind of really, fucked up the whole music industry, and it was a hard time for a lot of musicians, but I'm guessing for you personally, how did you manage to, cope with that?
From band perspective, it was so terrible timing because we were about to release the next one, Royal Destroyer, and we were sort of celebrating our 10th album, and was it 30 years? So there was some very nice round figures coming up, and we really wanted to do something special. And then the lockdown started, and everything was cancelled, and it was really, really weird times. But for me personally, a lot of the things I love doing, I have at home. I have my studio, I have all the stuff here, my family is here. So for me, the lockdown was just beautiful.
Just be in dad mode and also hammer out riffs and shit.
All good. Go around walking in fucking underwear and just taking care of business, you know?
Yeah, but I guessing during the whole that whole pandemic and stuff, I pretty much had time to work on Royal Destroyer, your last album. I thought this was a great album. Of course, it came out in 2021. So, what was that like?
I also think it's a really good one. For me, Cobra Speed Venom and the Royal Destroyer are a bit of sibling albums. Same mindset, same art guy who did it.
Yeah, because they do. It is similar, just like with the first 3 albums. There's that kind of connection.
albums, and so I don't think like musically they differ a lot. They had the same vibe to it, also recorded in the same studio, and a lot of the same mindset. Obviously, you try to push everything to the next level, and I think like on Well Destroyed, there are a couple of songs that are some of the best stuff we've ever done. The live set list is absolutely a pain in the ass nowadays.
Yeah, because especially the more albums you put out, the harder it gets to put out. Because you want like those. There's always those fans that want the deep cuts from like The Burning and shit.
Yeah. There's always that guy yelling for it. That one guy.
Yeah, but then of course your latest album, Crown of Thorns. This was one of my favorite albums from last year, of course, named after the original name of the band. So, what was the whole writing and reporting process like for Crown of Thorns?
That was very different. It was I was always so used to having Magnus by my side, writing 50-50 of the music, but Magnus decided to leave the Crown. So it sort of became a bit clear to me that I need to be the main songwriter for this album. So I need to get into the zone, and I wrote a lot of music, and in the end, picked the 10 best ones, and Matthias, our new bass player, he wrote 2 songs as well.
Yeah, how'd he join?
I remember I think I wrote like foundation to songs. I think it was 16 or 17 songs that I sort of started to process and start to think like, okay, what songs can build a good album. And it was the first time also I decided on a bit different approach. I wanted to do the artwork first.
Yeah.
So because that bridge there is from our hometown that we sort of death metalized.
Yeah, but, it looks fucking badass.
Yeah, so that symbolizes our known bridge from our hometown, and also naming the album Crown of Thorns, everything linking back to the...
Sort of coming in full circle.
Home. Yeah, so for me, when I sort of became responsible for the music, I really wanted to do something that has vibes from every area we've sort of been in touch with musically,
Yeah.
And but I think it's an excellent album. I think I'm super proud of it, and I'm so proud that I even tattooed the thing on my underarm.
Wow, that you're dedicated to the fucking cause.
Yeah, so I love that album. I'm super proud.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that we managed to do the fast stuff, the slow stuff, and I think the final track,
The Storm That Comes.
The Storm That Comes might be the best song I ever done.
Really?
To be honest.
It's an epic, great way to end the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of it.
Yeah. And what would you say like the overall like themes and messages are for Crown of Thorns?
Oh, I would say in that case the theme is the sort of full circle thing there. The artwork was done. That was quite interesting because we did the artwork. I think it was a year before we recorded it. So I really wanted to change it around because always the artwork came in so late. But this time I wanted to do the artwork and sort of be able to look at the artwork and start thinking to myself, okay, when I look at this, what type of songs belong into this artwork? So that was my mindset. Like, okay, this is some of the raw stuff, and this will be. I mean, I just wanted to get a mindset to what type of songs to fill this artwork. So a bit reverse engineering there. So, but that was cool. It got me fired up, and I got super creative. And I think the theme there is that I think it shows all of our sort of strengths and what we're able to do. And I think I love that album. I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, and it's been, of course, the album has been out since like last October. So, how has like the overall like feedback and response been for Crown of Thorns?
It's been amazing. I mean, a lot of those beautiful things, you know, album of the month and, you know, topping charts, you know, the best album since blah, blah, blah. And I mean, those things are, it's beautiful. It's really heartwarming to hear stuff like that. And especially what I really enjoy is, you know, hearing the feedback from, because we have some really dedicated fans, you know, being there from day one, and they have really, really interesting input of how they view this album compared to others. And I really love talking to them and hearing how they view on it. And, it's always very different from how I view it, and that's beautiful. So that's how it should be. So, yeah, super awesome feedback on the album.
Cool. And of course, on this album, you also have a new rhythm section. You have Matthias on bass and Michael on drums. So how did they end up joining the Crown? And did they maybe bring in some like new elements that the Crown hasn't had before?
Yeah. If we start with Michael, I think what Michael brought in was that he brought in back a bit of the crazy drumming we had earlier with Janne on drums, you know, on the 4, 5, 6 first albums. Janne's crazy style of, you know, doing technical stuff and being super creative. That's what I think Michael brought in. I mean, Michael is amazing. I think he's like Europe's freaking top 5 drummers ever. I mean, he's absolute machine. Matthias, who came in a bit from the punk world, so he has that linked with Magnus. I mean, some of the songs he brought in, Matthias, they have the punk feel to it, and it just adds to the palette, you know, the Crown sound. So, yeah, very well rehearsed album and very well executed in the studio as well.
Nice. And I feel like every song like is very diverse, like especially like Church Burner has that kind of like black metal feel, like no pun intended, with the whole like church burning things and shit, but you'd still have like the old school like death metal and thrash kind of vibes, like with with the double and the agitator. Like, do you usually have it like in your mind to sort of write like the most diverse album that you have written pretty much to date?
Yeah, that has been sort of my. The thing is that when you start writing music, I mean, the first 3, 4 albums, they write by themselves because you're young, you're just getting your shit out and everything. But then when you start getting to album number 8 or 9 or 10, you start to analyze, like, okay, have I done this type of song before? Or because I really want to push forward, I don't want to repeat myself, and so it becomes a bit more. You start questioning yourself, like if you're working on a song, like, am I just copying myself or am I really pushing it forward? So that's the big difference. And I really wanted the songs on that album that every song has their own identity. It's based on something that is unique for every song. It could be something from a beat or a tempo or melody way or how you arrange it, but they need to have an own identity. That was really important for me.
Yeah,
we struggled a lot with all the songs we had. What should be on the album? Well, we still care about things like what is the song order and stuff like that. And I mean, a lot of arm wrestling about those type of things.
Yeah, and I noticed you also had a hand of writing like the lyrics as well. Is there like a difference between like writing lyrics versus to like writing like the music?
Yeah, the lyrics is. I mean, if we go back 20 years, it was easier because at that time the mindset was, you know, like, yeah, let's just write fucking evil lyrics, you know. So I mean, because that's part of the death metal, you know. But I mean, in recent years, I've been sort of starting to question myself, like, why the hell am I writing stuff like that? Who am I trying to prove, and why should I write? I don't want to write about serial killers. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's just that everything is where you are in life as well. I mean, so what I sort of figured out that it may not be the most popular topics for people to read, but I write the best lyrics when it becomes a bit personal, from my own experience or my own views and stuff like that. I don't really find it inspirational to write about, war and hell and all of that. I tend to gravitate a bit more to personal stuff. That's when I think that I write the best stuff. It may not be the sort of typical death metal stuff, but at least I know that it's from the heart. It's true. It feels real.
Totally. And being as of course it's almost going to be almost a year since Crown of Thorns came out, have you started working on like the next Crown album? Like what's like the status with that, if you're allowed to say?
Actually, after that album, after all the songs I did, I felt so empty. I really sort of drained myself. So I intentionally forbid myself to write a new Crown song. I need a break.
Yeah, he's like,
sort of,
write songs.
Yeah, he's like pick up the guitar. It's like death metal. No.
He's like, nope, you ain't doing that. We do not do that here.
So I need to build it up to something, when it sort of comes to the level that it just wants to explode and come out. That's what I want to reach. I'm not gonna sit here and try to force anything new out of me. If something solid comes out, then it will happen. But I'm not gonna force anything new.
Yeah, can't half-ass it.
Yeah. So let's see when the kettle boils over and there's a death explosion again and 10 new songs are written. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, but kind of also in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for the Crown? Have you all like got any like more tours and shows lined up? And is there a chance you can please bring the Crown to the States for a tour? We'd love to have you.
Yeah, States has been on the wish list for so long and it's just been so difficult. But we are coming to States, but it's only one show.
Yeah.
We do the Maryland Death Fest.
Which I'm definitely gonna see you guys. I've never seen the Crown live, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I was at the past one a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see.
We played there years ago. I mean, I think it was one of the US tours. We started with a show there, and then we sort of moved on. But nowadays, we can do the one-off thing.
Yeah, so just one show in the US and be like, well, see ya.
That's the weird thing because they can provide like a 1-day working visas for us for a good price, but the next step is that you need apply for a year visa, work permits. So that's when it becomes super expensive all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so
that shit ain't cheap.
No, that ain't cheap. And the closest thing we ever got to the US lately was a year ago, 2 years ago. We played on this 70,000 tons.
Yeah, I'm actually going back this year or next year. I was on it twice. I'm hoping you guys get out on it this next year.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. That's quite clever, the boat thing, because you play on international waters, so you don't need work permits.
Yeah, so suck it, bitches.
Yeah, so, but yeah, we're doing Maryland, but also we're going to Finland now in 4 days, festival, and then it's really cool that we have actually some new territories we're going to cover later this year. We are going to Greece. We never played in Greece. We're going to Spain as well.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's really cool that still to this day we managed to, do new territories.
Yeah, gotta find a way to play in like Australia. Yeah, I think you gotta play in Africa. I think I've already covered Asia. I don't know if you played Brazil or South America.
Yeah, we're going there as well.
Oh, cool.
So that's really cool.
And then I don't know how you're gonna do Antarctica. You gotta find a way. Metallica did it.
Yeah. If they can, of course we can. We have the same budget.
Yeah. But just thank you, Marko, for this conversation. It's so great to finally have the Crown on my show. There's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Oh man, thank you for the interview. It was a blast. It's always nice to do this blast what was it called?
Blast from the past.
Blast from the past thing, and when you sort of someone pushes an old album to your face and you start to think about it, there's a lot of things popping up,
Yeah.
So I very, very rarely listen to the old albums. Obviously, when I need to learn a song we play live, but I usually don't listen to the old stuff. at least completely, but you know, when you get an old album in your face, you start to think about it, and what always strikes me is that, you know, when you go through all the albums and think about it, I'm fucking proud of what we have achieved. So that's a really cool feeling. So and I mean, if there's people wanna, you know, see us alive, there's only one way to do it, is to, you know, be there for the band and, you know, get the albums and support the band. And that's how we get to, you know, new places like, you know, Mexico and stuff like that. It always comes from the fans, you know. They build up a need and fucking write on the Facebooks, and all of a sudden there's a promoter. Oh, we have 200 Mexican kids that want to see you live. Are you coming? Yeah, we're coming, man.
Come to Brazil.
So it's yeah. I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Anytime. So everybody, Marko Tervonen from The Crown. We'll see you next time.